Let's go. Game time.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Better Baby Daddy podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, John Laxman.
And I'm your other co-host, Kelly Burgess.
All right, B, today we are going to pick up where we left off with part 2 of building a blended family.
Right.
Right.
Very good.
And in part 1, we talked about, what did we talk about in part 1?
We talked about a lot. So
yeah.
We talked at the outset about how you don't get to the point where you're building a blended family unless you've done a lot of the other stuff that we've talked about in the previous episodes. Probably lay down, 10, 15 episodes about, hey, what do you do if you find yourself as a single dad, and how do you navigate all you got to navigate? And we're speaking to guys who've navigated all that stuff and are at a place of financial stability, emotional stability with the ex, routines with the kids. Kids are doing well. Like, you're at that point, and now you have the platform where you could fold on to another serious commitment, which is blending your family with somebody else who has a family too. So 3 things we talked about in the previous episode were, hey, when you're blending a family, is set realistic expectations, set realistic time expectations. Like, it takes a minute. We use the crock pot, and set emotional and relational expectations that are realistic. You're not going to microwave yourself into a 7-year-old relationship day one, right? It takes time. Second thing we talked about is build trust, and trust comes through constant, consistent communication. There's no other way to do it. And just like the other thing, you can't shortchange that. That's going to take what it takes. Sometimes you're going to break some things conversationally, have to go back, fix things, but it takes time. But if you're consistent with, hey, I'm going to be here, this is how I'm going to communicate, I'm going to listen to you, it will be good. And then once you are able to do that, then the third and really the most important thing, because you're blending a family, is that you have to create a sense of cohesion and unity with you and your new partner. Right. That y'all are now a new unit that's moving forward together, and the kids have to, the kids on both sides have to respect, oh, okay, this is a new unit. Yeah. Not just dad and this kind of add-on. Right. Those are the 3 things we talked about last.
I think my biggest takeaway listening to you go through this and just talking through this process in part 1 is that this process, like many things in life, is not linear. No. Right? No. So if you have the mindset, step 1, then step 2, then step 3, then step 3, straight down the line, it's not going to happen like that.
Yeah, and you'll be sorely disappointed, and you're going to probably cause a lot more damage, right? So understand it's sometimes it's 2 steps forward, a step back. Sometimes it's A to B to P to back to C. You know, it is.
Then you're on.
Yeah, it is. So, we just give you that so you're not surprised at how complicated and how nonlinear it is when you're moving there. But it is worth the work. But do it wisely.
Absolutely. All right, so let's jump into part 2 then, 4 and 5. So we went through 1 and 3 in part 1. So 4 and 5 in part 2 today. Number 4 is shared identity with new tradition, with new traditions. And you're going to start simple when you're building those new traditions, right?
Yeah. What are some of the traditions you have with your kids?
Yeah. So Friday nights we are movies and popcorn.
Nice.
And Poppy soda.
Oh, okay.
Shout out to Poppy. I think they were just bought by Pepsi, by the way.
Were they really?
Yeah, for a couple billion.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyhow, so we do popcorners, some healthy-ish snacks.
Sure.
And then it's a movie time. Find a movie,
right?
And we just rock it out.
Very good.
Yeah.
And that's with one girl or with both girls?
Both girls. Both girls. Nice. Yeah. So 5 and 10-year-old. Right now they're in the phase where they can kind of watch the same things. Similar. It's similar, right? Sometimes we get a little younger for the 5-year-old. Sometimes we get a little older for the 10-year-old.
But no fights over the movies yet.
No, they're able to work through it because I talk about that a lot. Right. All right. You want to watch this one. You want to watch this one, and I will step away and say, figure it out together. Right. Respectfully figure this out.
All right.
And they'll go back and forth, respectfully go back and forth.
Nice.
And they'll be like, we decided we're not going to watch that one at all. Or we decided, we're going to go with Alana. Or we decided we're going to go with Isla.
Nice.
And be watching that. I know this is off topic a little bit, but watching that process play off.
Exactly on that. Be like, hey, if you guys can't make a decision, we're just going to watch Die Hard, which is
the best Christmas movie of all time.
That's great, man. As we were going looking at number 4, I was thinking about, and I think I mentioned Sue before, when my kids were small, we would have this routine when they were real small and like 9 and under, and it was like, yo, you just want to get all them jokers in the bed, right? And so we would have this routine called honey milk. So I would warm some milk up, put a little honey, some cinnamon in it. Yeah. Get them because you don't want to give them too much because they'll be peeing in the bed and getting up all night, right? But just a little, not even a quarter cup of it, right?
Uh-huh.
And they're always sitting around, 5, we'd be sipping it, we'd be talking. And that was our routine right before bed. And then, we do prayers or whatever. But those routines are really powerful.
Yes.
They give you a sense of like, just the cycle of the family, right? And so when you have yours and then your new partner has theirs with their kids, it can be tricky to navigate that. If you got married or, started seriously dating somebody, y'all were going to be a thing, you wouldn't be giving up Friday night movies.
That's tough.
Right? Your girls would be like, yo, Dad, I don't like this lady because there's no more movies, right?
It'd be a problem.
And the same thing on the other end. And so it is important to keep those current traditions that you have, but then create some new ones that the new family can say, hey, this is what we hang our hat on.
So can I ask you a question about that? Because you've experienced that. I personally haven't really went through that part where I'm trying to balance my traditions with a new person's traditions, and then come up with new traditions in general, right? So what was that process like? Let's say did your honey milk tradition
that carried over from 1 to 2? Yes.
2. Okay. All right. And then when 3 came, that wasn't even. They were older.
They were older. They were
like,
honey milk, man. We're trying to get Jack Daniels out here. Shout out to Jack Daniels. But, they were older. So, those kind of things weren't the same. But, but now, we have different traditions. The tradition, and this was more the adults getting together and say, how do we keep kind of the cohesion of all the kids?
Yeah.
Those kids come from different places. And so a new tradition was, hey, we have Thanksgiving as a family, and then we get together as a broader family, and that's steps, exes, everybody together.
Wow, yeah.
At somebody else's house, it usually switches between me and one of my exes. And then all the kids, various exes get together, and it's a family time the Friday or Saturday after Thanksgiving.
So I'm just playing through this in my mind then, right? So let's say I have we'll take my popcorn and my popcorn and poppy movie night, Friday tradition.
Yeah.
And this woman comes into my life with her children, and their Friday tradition is cards, Uno, right?
Right.
So then what in your mind, how would you say that we blend something like that? Were we keeping the foundation of each tradition, but also establishing something new that everyone can be involved in?
Yeah, I mean, I would tell the kids, hey, we love doing all these things. How can we continue doing all these things? Man, I love you guys' Uno idea, and hey, we do popcorn, and do you guys like popcorn and movies? And like, oh yeah, we love it. Who doesn't like popcorn and movies?
Right.
Well, how can we continue to do all those kids? Let the kids come up with some ideas if they're old enough to, you obviously got some negotiators in your family, right? When the kids are able to do that. But, have the kids come up, because they'll a lot of times come up with just options that we know are going to work for them because it came from them, and they're like, oh, I never thought about that. So maybe it's we open with Uno, and then we finish with a movie. Or maybe it's Uno one week, Uno and popcorn one week, and then it's the movies and popcorn the next week, And so, or then maybe there's a third better option, right? And maybe it's board game night or something like that.
Yeah.
But throw it off to the kids, because they got great ideas, and then they have a sense of, ownership and investment in the decision. And it's like, yo, this guy's really cool. We really, maybe they'll come up with, your ladies' kids will come up with something that she wouldn't let them do, but you rock with, and you're like the hero, because like, we can have Sunday night, because John said Sunday night's rocking.
Yeah, they don't catch heat on the other end. No, I like that idea of, involving everyone in the decision-making process and allowing the children to make these decisions inside this framework. Right? Yeah. I think that's so powerful, giving them ownership of what is going to occur.
Yeah, and that presents that idea that y'all are a unit as a family. We're going to make this decision as a family. I'm not coming from on high saying we're going to do this.
Yeah.
She's not coming from high saying, hey, as a family, we're going to make this decision.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, everyone's going to have to make, and I hate saying this, but everyone's going to have to make some type of sacrifice to make things work. Yeah. And kids a lot of times don't want to make those sacrifices. Yeah. As adults, we don't want to make those sacrifices. No. But we know if it's going to be long-term beneficial to what we're trying to do, then it has to be done.
No doubt about it. Yeah, so it's a lot of, moving and shaking. But I think the key is have an idea that you want to do that. And that's like an end goal, and then keep it simple as you move towards more.
Love that. Yes, so shared identity with new traditions. Right, so we have this shared identity with these new traditions, and we're starting very simple.
And then move to the events that kind of make it easier for you to start some traditions. So we have birthdays, we have holidays, we have first day of school, we have last day of school, we have first day of summer. Some of those things where it's like, okay, we're already going to be doing something as a family. Let's kind of flavor it our way. And so, you're not trying to work against the grain of what your normal family schedule is, but do start simple and then kind of, work with the events that you already got in place.
So simple things such as, all right, we're going, if everyone's religious within this family that we're building, that we're just going to pray before we eat, right? Maybe neither of us have prayed before we eat, even though we are faith-based family, we're going to pray before we eat. And then everyone can jump on board because we already have that established foundation of faith. So it's not like we're going against something, right? We're not fighting anything.
No, absolutely. That's very good. Yeah, and it reminded me of something from, my second relationship. It was Sundays were church and then a big Sunday dinner because, my ex-wife loved cooking, right? And so I remember, it's funny how you reminded of these different things you're talking through, but that was an easy thing to do. We would go to church, and then we'd come home, she would start cooking, there might be some football on, and then we would have a big meal right before my bios went back. I had to take it back to her mom.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of what we locked into. And even, a couple of discussions with her, my second ex a couple of weeks ago, was she misses that time. She misses, that was like where she probably felt like, locked in as a mom and a stepmom is because she was really in her wheelhouse with like the cooking, and the kids loved it. So.
That's interesting as well, right? So doing something that not only are we participating in an activity that is building a bond between us, but also things that are truly enjoyed, right?
Yeah.
Like I think, well, let's do this, and everyone's like, we're going through this routine, and we're like, everyone's like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
But finding things that are truly enjoyable as well, and then having kids take ownership of that decision-making process, you're most likely going to have something that's enjoyed by the children.
No doubt about
right?
it. Yeah.
And then as adults, we'll muscle through things.
I mean, but and looking back, when your kids get older, there's things my kids have mentioned like, man, Dad, I really love when we did X. I was like, really? I mean, we were just kind of trying to fill up time because there was so many you children. Like, man, Dad, you remember we used to take those walks in the woods and there was big vines hanging down? I was like, man, I was probably thinking about bills or like,
yo,
but they were out there like, man, this is like an adventure. So, but it's the routine of those little things you do as a family that really lock in to kids. Remember, they're kids and you're forming really important memories. And they don't have to be expensive. They don't have to be, super, involved. Keep it simple and have some agreement as a family we're going to do, and then just do the thing over and over.
Yeah, whatever that thing is. I like that, man.
Yeah.
All right, cool. You ready to jump to number 5?
Number 5 is heavy, man.
Yeah.
Yes, number 5 is heavy.
Right. So handle loyalty, conflicts, and emotional tension with grace.
With grace. And grace means that you are going to, when things get heated, and they are, you're going to extend extra patience. You're going to extend extra time because you realize that the situation demands that. So think about it. You're taking a family, right? So my family, I have all these strong relationships with my biological kids. The way we communicate is the way is locked in. There's things that I can just communicate with a change in my facial expression that my kids will know. If we're outside in public and they hear, that means, hey, I need y'all to round up. We can ready to roll out, right? Not like I'm whistling at dogs, but it's like that's the signal, right? And then, hey, I'm bringing a lady into the situation. She has her own method of communication with her kids.
Yeah.
And there's obviously a loyalty there because those are her biologicals, right? And so it's easy for, like Ron Deal talked about, for these love triangles to develop, not in a freaky sense, but like, because, things get misconstrued out here.
Absolutely do.
Social media land. But we're talking about there's a triangle between your relationship, between you and your new partner, and that child.
Yeah.
Her biological, right? And then there's a triangle between your relationship and your partner and your biological. And one side of the triangle is a stronger connection than the other, and you're growing it where all sides are stronger over time. But it can be like, your biological come to you like that. I didn't really like the fact that she made me eat broccoli because her kids have to eat broccoli.
Right.
And it's like, okay, so you're managing that, trying to manage, hey, honey, maybe we ease up on the broccoli. My kids can't stand broccoli.
Right.
I know you're the broccoli queen. So making them stay at the table until they finish the broccoli, that's probably not going to work in terms of you building a close relationship with this one.
Okay.
And so
real quick,
yeah.
with I don't know if that was a real life thing there or is it just an example, but let's play out that example, right? So, she's forcing broccoli. You're like, yo, chill with the broccoli.
Right.
And the kids are like, and then her kids are like, no, we always eat broccoli. Your kids are like, no, we don't.
Right.
That has the potential to be explosive.
It does.
And we're just talking about broccoli, but I understand from life experiences that sometimes broccoli and I'm using broccoli as an example here for many different things, can be explosive.
Yeah.
So how do we navigate that
Right.
literally quadrant
Right.
of possible conflict?
Well, the good thing is that everybody's response is data, and that's not clinical about it. It's data, right?
Yeah.
So you go back when it's calmer at night, maybe before you and the spouse go to bed, and say, "Hey, I noticed that, man, there was some tension, with my daughter with this broccoli thing, and it might have been coming from this place because she can't stand broccoli. We never have broccoli. She'll rock with Brussels sprouts, but broccoli is like, your kids gobble it up, and you expect them to finish their plates. I let my kids eat until they're full." And so how can we compromise on that?
Yeah.
And then you might discover, hey, broccoli was like the only thing their family could eat for 3 generations, so that's why it has so much meaning. It's like, so all that's data, and you're discovering stuff about your spouse and each kid and y'all's family. And so that's why grace, that extra time, that's a crock pot. That's, let me think on that. Maybe I don't make a decision right away. Let me go back to my daughter. How about this? All of that has to go into resolving it. But you're right. If you're just like, well, we just ain't eating it. You let your kids do what your kids rock the way they want to rock. We're going to rock how we rock. And then you have the beginnings of 2 families living under the same roof.
And that's a mess.
Yeah.
Because that's also going to translate into things beyond broccoli.
No doubt about
right?
it.
That's going to translate into going to school when my tummy hurts or not. Right? That's going to translate into what I can wear on the weekends. Yeah. It's everything.
Everything.
So it really, you do need to really have consistent and positive conversations about all of these things.
Yeah. And that's why it's not to be entered into lightly.
No.
But we can enter into it lightly so easily.
Yeah.
And then you're doing all this work on the back end. But it goes back to, what was that, point number 3? That sense of parental, you're trying to get on the same page as your new spouse or new partner so y'all can move out as a unit on this thing.
Can you think of a specific example similar to the broccoli that you had to deal with?
Yeah, and in some ways it's still, I have one, my brain doesn't, I can't think of ones from, baby mama number 1 and baby mama number 2. Because it's like, I've done the work with those, I put them to bed, I put that book on the shelf. Yeah. But with my current wife, there was a situation with my sons who were adults, and I think we talked about the speaking thing, but this other one was, I'd asked my son to do a chore, and my wife didn't think he had done the chore. She didn't think he had done the chore because it just didn't look like, to her standard, that he had done it. And so I think I said, well, I know he did it because he told me he did it, and he's not that kind of kid that, I might have one kid. I don't think any of my kids would be like, I did it, Dad, but I didn't do it. He's not the kind of kid that would not do it, but it might not have been to the level of her liking, but it was fine with me. And so I said, well, honey, he did it. And then I think she said, well, it doesn't look like he did it. I said, well, I know he did it. And then he might have been around. I think I said, well, he probably just didn't do it to your standard. Mm-hmm. And I probably had a little salt in it. Yeah, I feel it. It was early on in our relationship, right? Early on in our marriage. And so I was like, yo, you're not going to come with my son. Like, he did it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not a big deal. It's not filthy. It's just not pristine the way you clean, right?
Right.
And so later, she was really offended by that. Mm-hmm. That I said, it wasn't to your standard, the way I said it in front of her. So I had to walk it back. And so there were several times where I had to go back to him and his brother and say, hey, look, this is what we're looking for. You might have been used to this with me. You might have been used to with your mom. But hey, now, it's not this white glove, but it's like, it's close to white glove.
Right.
And we're going to work towards that. And so, and then I have to go back and say, hey, I spoke to the boys.
Right.
Because as a man, what I didn't want to do is put my boys in a situation where, you got a 20-year-old and like an 18-year-old. You're like, okay, guys, let me bring you before the new spouse and just make sure you're clear about, you know what I mean? Like, you're not little 7-year-old boys you're like, I don't want to do the dishes.
Right.
So that's the most recent one. It's not a big thing, but it was. I discovered from my wife that it was really important that it was cleaned a certain way, and she felt disrespected because I didn't uphold that. Right. In front of the boys with her. So.
That's a process that takes time to work through. And it also requires you to, to go to your wife and say, well, this is why it was done this way. Because our standard was, hey, it's clean. Right. It might be a little dusty, but it's clean. It's organized. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
We don't put on the white gloves.
Right. No.
So and then that's that melding of different expectations and standards and families.
Right. It is. And then it reminds me that and this is where we're different, as men, a thing came up, we discussed it, it was tense, we kind of, boiled over, we turned the heat down, fixed it, now it's done.
Yes.
For the ladies, it's, it's done until I cycle back in the universe and there's something else that pops off that reminds me of this thing, and I'm going to mention it again, right?
Right.
And, okay, we're done with it here.
Yeah.
But, okay, halfway around the orbit, it's like something else pops out. And it's like, that reminds me of that time. Remember that time, something happened with your sons, and it's just like that. I'm like, I thought we were done with that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm done with that. And then that's another discussion that you have. It's like, well, I processed that.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to bring that same emotion. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to fix that anymore because
Right.
it's fixed to me.
Right.
So if we could talk about this thing, I can help you. So I can help resolve this with you. But I'm not resolving this, and we're still layering that on too. So it was that's one of the things that happens in blended families. It's like, you process the thing, put it to bed with your kids, but it's still festering a little bit with your spouse.
So at that point, and I'm not talking in any way specifically about your wife,
Right.
but because this could be a man thing as well,
Yeah.
we have to make sure that the problem is resolved on both ends. Right? And that responsibility falls on both individuals.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I feel that the problem is entirely resolved and my partner does not feel that way, it's her responsibility to be like, hey, actually, I'm not completely done with this, right?
Yeah.
Or it's and also partly my responsibility to check in and be like, hey, I'm good, 100%. I'm not coming back to this. I believe it's resolved. Are you at the same place as me?
Right.
And if she says yes, hey, we good.
But you and I both know. There's yes, I'm good, and then there's yes, I'm really good. And, that is where in a simple relationship where you're not blending, that's a challenge, right? So imagine you layering all this other stuff where you got multiple things that could pop off, right?
Yeah.
And you're trying to do it. And the point is that, communication and navigating those different tensions in the different combination of relationships is a skill. And so go into it knowing you're going to have to use and develop that skill in real time.
Yeah.
So it reminds me, I was listening to sports radio on the way in, right? They were talking about, and this still seems far afield, but I'm going to bring it to
All right, I'm with you.
So they were talking about Jalen Hurts, quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, arch rival of the Washington Commanders, but I respect his game. Mm-hmm. But they were talking about his ability as a quarterback. And they were saying that that the quarterbacks, that he wasn't as good as other quarterbacks, that he's a product of the team that's built around him.
Okay, the system QB.
The system QB. So, whether you believe it or not, the dude won the Super Bowls. You got to give him his props. But they were, so the question to the guy who was talking about Jalen Hurts that way was, well, what kind of quarterbacks gave you the biggest trouble? He said the ones that were able to process what you're doing as a defense and make switches in real time in the game. That, hey, you present something as a defense, they have a check for it, but then you present that same thing later in the game, and that same check comes out, but it's a different play. It's a different response to what you did. Yeah. And they were talking about how Peyton Manning was just exceptional at that. The connection to us as Better Baby Dads is that you will have to run plays in real time, and you're going to get a certain response for one of your new relationship, and you'll see a similar play you got to run, and you'll get a completely different response year 3 of your relationship. And you have to be able to level up your game in real time, and just know that that's the game. It's not, hey, when my wife was upset about something that happened with her biological that I did, that my response year 1 is going to be able to be used in year 3.
Right.
You got to evolve and know you're dealing with a complicated relational system, right?
Absolutely.
So don't be confused by that and dissuaded by that leaning into that work. That's the work.
Yeah.
So and that's why a lot of second and third relationships don't work. That's why there's if you have a second divorce, you have a higher likelihood to have a third divorce because it is so much more complicated every time you layer on another family.
Right.
So don't be discouraged by that work. Understand that that's the work.
And it's necessary.
It's necessary.
It's necessary.
Yeah. And it goes back to all the things we talked about, the prior work you have to do, right? Our very first episode, we talked about having a team that's fit for the travels. And so if you are thinking about blended families, you better have some cats on your team that have blended families. Right. Or you better have some resources because you're going to encounter things you're not going to know what to do, and it can blow you out the water.
Great story, man.
Sorry, man.
I love that. I love that sports reference in regards to, just being able to grow and adapt on the fly. 100%. Yeah. I'm thinking of my own situation where we grew up, my family, I'm talking about my mother, if as little children, if we came to her bed, it'd be cool. right? No problem,
Yeah.
right? Then with my first BM, my daughter, she had a bad dream or anything like that, and it's cool if she comes to the bed, right? My second, she comes to the bed in the middle of the night, nope, turn around, go back. But there's a process, but but you're not laying down at all.
Yeah, okay.
And then,
so did you discover that at the moment you're like the first?
In the moment we discovered it,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So, and I hadn't done any work. She hadn't done any work. We haven't talked about this. This is now an issue. I didn't know this was going to be an issue. She didn't know this was going to be an issue. So, just experiencing that and not being the man I am today, not being able to really work through that, I'm like, all right, I'll just defer, whatever. And then I talk to my daughter, put her back in the bed, She comes back like 20 minutes later, talk to her, put her back in the bed. But that, because I wasn't the man I am now,
Right.
I don't have that conversation with my BM, right? We're not talking about that. So now I'm holding that. Now there's resentment.
Yeah.
Now I feel like I'm being some type of way to my daughter because she is used to a specific response to me,
Right.
and she's not getting that response anymore. So, and I didn't even have that conversation with her because I'm not the type of person I am now that I was then.
Yeah.
So it is so important to have those conversations before those moments. Like you're not going to be able to predict everything that's different.
No.
But there are so many things that you can sit down
Right.
and you can talk about
Right.
before attempting to bring everything together.
Right.
And say, well, we're really different here.
Yeah.
We're really different here.
Right.
These things don't even match.
Right.
Maybe this isn't a good idea.
Yeah.
No matter how you feel about
the
your
person,
potential.
right. Yeah.
Like maybe it's just not a good idea.
Yeah.
You're a Buddhist. I'm a Christian.
Right.
Like how do we blend that with our children?
Right.
You believe in this. I believe in that.
Right.
Politically. All these different things that could be drastically
Yeah.
different. And then some of the minor things that become major things.
Yep.
So you really need to have those conversations.
You do. So if that's a man, that is that's such a tight situation.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked you, hey, you talk about beforehand because handling it in the moment is really, really difficult.
Yes.
And somebody's going to lose, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's going to lose in that situation, and it's like, and it's nighttime. You sleep. You can't think clearly. You're just trying to get back to sleep, right?
You're not.
Dude, yeah, so that's tough, but it's real life. And that's a small example, and there's hundreds and not thousands of little small decisions and things that impact your relationship that you got to work through like that.
Yeah.
And the last thing that we want to talk about, because it is so complicated, there's a whole nother family and a whole nother partner outside of y'all on both sides, right? If you got kids, there's somebody who created the kids with you, right?
Yeah,
that's not currently with you, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And so now you have a relationship with your stepchildren, and they have a relationship with their other biological parent. That's obviously not your partner, right? And it's how do you approach that relationship with that other biological parent and the work they're trying to do.
Right.
And so, Ron Deal just, in a simple way, just says, hey, you need to respect and honor that child's relationship with their biological parent. So if I'm the stepdad, I got to respect the relationship my stepchildren have with their biological father. And you might not always agree with what the other biological parent's doing, right? But you need to respect their role and place in the kids.
So you're not talking shit about their biological father while they're in vicinity, right? While they're around. We shouldn't be doing it in general,
No.
right? But 100% not with the kids. No matter how you feel about that man,
Right.
no matter what he has done,
Right.
it should not be said in front of the kids,
No.
right?
Yeah.
Let's say he actually is a deadbeat,
Right.
right? You can't say that to his children.
Sure.
That's a no-no.
And it's a no-no for so many reasons, right?
Yeah.
Because, hey, that kid deserves the right to discover their dad, the whole aspect, all the aspects of their dad in their time.
Yes.
And you're there to be a support for whatever the emotional, fallout or reactions are to them in their relationship with their dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if kids having a hard time with their dad, you're there to say, man, I know that's difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I went through X, Y, and Z with my kids, they had a challenging time during that time too when that happened. If you ever want to talk, I'm here.
Yeah.
It's not, that nigga,
Don't worry, I'm there for you.
I'm there for you. I got you. You let him say something. Now, if it's, terrible things happening, certainly you have responsibility to step up and do
Obviously,
right.
there's
But we're talking about
variables.
just
Yeah.
ins and outs of one relationship is put to bed, and you hopefully it's been put to bed well. But if it's not, if it's still, a lot of friction and stuff back and forth, you're there to be a buffer for the kid, but not to denigrate the other parent.
Yeah, and as a man, it is my honest belief that you shouldn't be talking about another man in any type of negative way, because we know what this world in our society can do to men. And I'm not doing a victim thing here at all, right? But there are certain pressures that come along. Like, he might not be involved because he's working 3 jobs and paying child support.
Right.
And you probably know what that feels like.
Yeah.
So let's be honest and let's be real.
Right.
As men, we should not be degrading other men.
Yeah, and I respect the guy. Like, I don't care how late in the game it is.
Yeah.
With you trying to build a bridge to your kids.
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're 89 years old on your deathbed and you have just exhausted all the time you have left with your kids and you're making an overture to your kid. God bless you.
Yeah.
You know, in your final moments, you're making a move towards your kid. So if you're that dad that you really haven't had serious interaction with your child for 10, 15, 20 years, and you're just beginning. That's what we're about, right? That's what this podcast is about.
Hey.
We're just beginning to say, hey, let me send a text. I'm thinking of you. I want to get close to you. I know I've blown it. You know, if you are seeing a dad, the biological, make those moves,
Support
that cat, and it doesn't erase the hurt that's been created from, not being there or negligence or whatever. But it's like you're acknowledging that is a tough move to make. And we want more moves like that because it helps the kid. And so I've had a situation where I've had 2 exes, or 2, my kids have had 2 sets of stepdads. And they know, and it wasn't always that way at the beginning, particularly with, with one of them, but they know now I'm 10 toes down with these dudes because they're in your life. They're good dudes. They were there, and one of them was there in a lot of ways when I wasn't there. And so I got to give him his flowers, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's to the point where it's no problem for him to come over to the house on Father's Day or something like that because he has an established relationship with my kids. And, before we shot, I sent him some graduation pictures because he wasn't able to be at one of the graduations, right? And I know
That's big, man.
He had an integral part on that child getting to the point where he could finish college. And so I want him as a dad to be able to have a memento of like, yo, you did some work here, champ, right? But all that's to say is that it's hard enough. You don't need to add fuel to the fire by denigrating the other biological parent, even if your current partner is going through some friction with him.
Yeah. That's a really difficult navigation.
That's a balance of that.
Right? That is extremely difficult because she's looking for you to support her, but you're also trying to balance being an upright individual and man, right? So, she's like, yeah, he's doing it, and you're like, look, I understand you're going through some things. I understand this is a very difficult situation, but that doesn't give you, also, it's very touchy from the set. If you go, yeah, fuck him. And then she's like, whoa, I didn't mean it like that.
Use a lot. Right, and so it's like you're trying to play, wear so many hats. You're definitely, the husband and the protector of your current family, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you also recognize that, man, she has an existing long-term relationship, longer than their time with you a lot of times, with this guy, and they have certain patterns of communication, patterns of interaction, patterns of parenting. There you're like, oh, okay, let me step back and just kind of read the room here and be a support. And so sometimes it's like the best thing with your partner and with your stepchildren is to just ask them, well, what do you need from me right now? Yeah. What do you want and what do you need from me? I'm there for you. And that way they can articulate. And I know this with ladies a lot of times, like, if they can just, it's just like cause them to pause and think. And they're like, I just need you to sit. Or
just hear me.
Yeah. Or can you take this off my plate? Can you, it's tense between me and my ex. Can you take her out to Cold Stone? Because she just needs to, that's our go-to or whatever. But it's just asking, what do you need me to do? Because you really might not know where you the best place for you to fit in.
A lot of times we don't know. We don't. Let's be real. If we're trying to solve a problem that she doesn't want fixed.
So, all that's to say, in the general scheme of things, when you're blending, it's complicated. And don't forget the fact that that kid has a relationship with another parent that seems way out there. But, they got a relationship with them. And you gotta honor that and respect that, and in time and in unique ways support that.
I think one of the other things that you're going to run into, and I was just thinking through as you were speaking, is the fact that when they are with their biological, the other biological, curfew might be 10 p.m., but at your house it's 9:30. And then navigating that. Well, my dad lets me stay out till 10. Right? I can stay, but you making me come in at 9:30. What is, so navigating those, because different households are going to have different standards and expectations, at the end of the day. So then that requires a conversation with you and the child. That requires a conversation with you and the other biological as well, possibly, right? Which can be very tricky, especially at the beginning, when y'all feeling each other out. Because as men, like, I'm going to tell you what it's like as men, right? And we're talking to men here. But generally, the first time you meet a man, you sizing him up like, I could probably take him, right? That's the first thought that usually runs through our mind, especially in those type of situations.
Men's brain,
Yo.
Well, I can see why she left him. I mean, we're always, it's like, where are you pecking on? You're right. You're absolutely right, man.
So then how do you navigate that? Because that has a lot of potential in the beginning, before you understand him, before he understands you, before you have any type of relational foundation to be extremely explosive. Wait, you coming to tell me how to do with my child? Yeah.
I told her she could stay up till 10 with the tablet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what you gonna do?
Yeah. But, again, if the dudes do their work ahead of time, that's a conversation you have long before that comes up. That's point number 3, parental unity. Hey, at your, when the kids were with you and they were just with you, you let them have a tablet up till 11 o'clock at night. They fall asleep with the tablet. My girls know, well, first of all, they don't have any phones, right? They got flip phones or whatever. Yeah. Right? So how are we going to navigate?
And all screens are off at 8 p.m.
All screens off at 8 p.m., right?
Yeah.
And that is a thing in new families now, right? And then when she goes to her dad's, she has 3 different tablets and 2 cell phones, right? And you narrowed it down so you can have one, and it gets put away at 8, and then she's calling her dad. She's texting him on that one phone saying, I got to get off now. And then he's calling the ex, right? Your current, talking about, my girl needs to have access to her phones.
Yeah, limiting contact with me?
But if you follow the steps, step number 3, then your current partner can communicate to her ex, hey, this is what we've established as a family. Do you respect that?
And at the end of the day, everything we're talking about boils down to your ability to have proactive learning conversation. At the end of the day, that's all it is. Yeah. And am I, let me see, confident, brave enough, and humble enough to have those conversations where I can admit, you know what, that 11 p.m. tablet is probably not a good idea. Right. Can I put aside the ego and have that conversation? Can I be humble? Can I be confident enough? Can I be brave enough to step out there and have those conversations in a respectful way? Because it's easy to have those disrespectful conversations.
No doubt.
But can I be emotionally regulated throughout that conversation so that it ends in a positive way?
Positive way, absolutely. Yeah. And it's a tall task, gentlemen, that we're asking you to do. But if you do the steps, you'll be the kind of man that can do that, right? Yeah. If you shortchange any of the steps, or you put the cart before the horse relationally, y'all start sleeping together after day 2, and then you're scrambling to try to build this kind of relationship with one another, then it's it can be tricky to do. I just saw something in the window there.
Threw me off too.
Something I forgot to do last night before I left. But anyway, all I say is, man, do the work in the steps that we talked about, and you'll get to the point where you'll be able to handle those things in real time. If not, you'll be learning a different lesson in real time.
Hey,
that's it.
That is 100% accurate. Or you'll be starting over again somewhere else.
Let this relationship be your last relationship.
Hey, that's the goal. That should be the goal.
That's the goal. Yeah. Obviously, if you listen to us, you're in a situation where, hey, something didn't work.
Yes.
But we hope this next thing is the last one, and then it works.
Right. B, real quick before we move forward, how we doing on time? We good?
On time to...
Time, like, how we doing?
No, we're good. We're good on time.
We're good on time, good. So I want to add a little bonus then. Because of our profession, we are required to be relationship builders. To be successful at our job, you have to be an amazing relationship builder. Yeah. Right? I look at you and I see your interactions and I see that you are definitely a positive, powerful, and amazing relationship builder with the people that we work with, right? Yeah. I feel like I'm able to build positive relationships with those individuals as well. Yeah. If you want a strong blended family, you have to be a great relationship builder.
No doubt.
You have to be a great relationship builder. And what I've learned in the decade plus time I've spent in this field is that finding a common ground is like lighter fluid, rocket fuel to building a relationship. Right. It is like, boom, we're ignited. Good. All right, we got something we can talk about. Yeah. We got something we can build for. Right. We got something we can do together. Right. So finding common ground with your stepchildren is going to accelerate that relationship process. No. And it could be something as simple as like, you like Chipotle? I like Chipotle. Exactly Let's go to Chipotle. Yeah. You like basketball? Yeah. I like basketball. Whatever it is.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head. Yeah. And, I think, it reminds me of one thing my current wife said is that, because I was the kind of dad, even with experience being a stepdad, even with experience with working through relationships, that try to force the issue still, right? Mm-hmm. And she said, Kelly, you have to let things happen organically. You got to take time to let things unfold. And to your point, after doing that, I discovered, my stepdaughter loves just doing things on the spur of the moment, trying new things. Mm-hmm. And I'm more of a, that wasn't in the plan. I'm trying to get home and get her to bed. But it's like, okay, I got to build some flexibility. When she's in town, I got to build some flexibility in the schedule. And so, but you nailed it. If you don't do that, if you don't find common ground, you can be outside in. You're going to be like that dude over there.
Right. Yeah. And you have to be very intentional about that.
Right.
That just, you can't sit around and be like, oh, we'll figure out what we like. And look, you might be entirely different people, but there's most likely, in my experience,
right.
I'll go beyond most likely. 100% of the time, there's something. There is something.
There is.
Whether it's the same genre of movies,
right.
the same books,
right.
y'all both like walking,
right.
whatever it is, there is something that will connect you to another human being in this world.
Absolutely.
Like we're different as humans, but we're not completely different on every single topic, activity, whatever it may be.
Yeah, and that feeds into building the family traditions. Maybe you have, and that's the one thing, like with your biological kids, going out and taking them out on dates alone, like just, hey, there's just me and you time to do something as dad and child, and you're not part of a group of kids. It's us doing a thing you really, really like to do. Mm-hmm. And then over time, you need to develop that with your stepkids. Hey, let's run out to the thrift store, and then, I know you love thrifting. Right?
Yeah.
I know you love the bagel shop around the corner. So let's just make a quick morning of it before we got to get back and do something.
Right.
And, but that's money in the bank.
And as an adult, you have to take charge of that process.
Yes,
you cannot rely on the child to take charge of that process. Step up, be accountable, be responsible, and take charge of that process. And here's the thing. They might be 100% into something because they're a kid. Because you know how kids get super involved in whether it's Pokemon cards or something like that. You might have to build some interest or a higher level of interest just to build that connection. Like you might just have to you know what? They're really into Pokemon cards. Right. Let me watch the Pokemon movie with them. Let me find out, all right, what are some Pokemon? Charizard, Pikachu, something like that, right? My oldest collects Pokemon cards.
Boys love them. I just completely missed that. Like that was the thing they developed.
So maybe you just watch a movie with her. I mean, you don't know nothing about it, and not that you have to be collecting better cards than her and trying to trade with her, but just having that fundamental understanding establishes common ground.
It does,
right? Yeah. Where you can be out at the store and be like, "Yo, it's Pikachu,
quack,
whatever it is."
Right. And you're absolutely right. Reminds me of my grandson when we went to visit him, and we were in. One of the things where, hey, we're going to go out to eat, and then after that, we're going to go get some toys. And he was, he was rushing through his food because he wants to get the toys. And when he went to the Pokemon collection at this store, there was Walmart or something like that, Target. I mean, he just had a wall of Pokemon. He was taking them down. He had 5 of them on the ground, and he was like, I'll get that one. No, dude. I said, you can get 2. He had 6 of them down there, right?
He didn't know which one.
Dude was dialed.
Yeah.
He knew the names. He knew the different... whatever, I guess they got powers or something that they can do. Right, but get down on the floor with your kids, and get in their life, and your stepkids too, get in their life and build that common ground. Yeah,
it's so important.
Recap.
Yeah, so recap. You want to start with part 1 and run it all the way to part 2?
Just the quick hits, right? So part 1. So it's 5 things we talked about when you're trying to establish a blended family. A precursor to that is do the work that we talked about in the previous episodes on yourself. Make sure your situation with your ex is settled, and then you can fold somebody in. But number 1 was set realistic expectations on the pace and the depth of the relationship. It's going to take time, and Ron D will say it's crock pot. Long time, low heat, right? Number 2 is build trust through consistent, authentic communication. Very, very, very important. You can't develop a relationship without honesty and consistent communication. The third point was create that sense of parental unity. You have to come as a unit. That takes time. Hopefully you've done some pre-work and y'all aren't just jumping into it and just, voila, we're a family, right? The kids see it be developing, and then, hey, you're able to say, hey, your mom and I, or your stepdad and I said this, right?
And the kids will test that unity. They will test that, man.
They'll get up in the middle of the night and come into bed and say, how serious are y'all about this rule?
Right? That's exactly what they'll do.
They will. And then number 4, as you develop this family, create a shared sense of family identity through new traditions. Start simple and then move to more complex. That ties into the thing you said about finding common ground, right?
Yes.
We talked about getting input from the kids on these traditions we want to establish, right? And then number 5, handle the loyalty, conflicts, and emotional tension with grace. Knowing that when you got so many different relationships, so many different combinations of relationships, there's going to be tension. And handle them directly, but handle them with grace and patience. Last little bonus thing was respect the other biological parent. They're in there trying to do the same gritty work you're trying to do at a distance from their kids. And so you want to respect their role. And you want your current spouse to respect your parent.
Dive into that.
Your ex's work that she's trying to do with your kids. So 5 things, a lot of work, but worth the work.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, if you're looking to build a family positively with someone else that has children as well from outside the relationship you have with her, it's going to take work, it's going to take communication, it's going to take consistency, it's going to take dealing with a lot of frustration, it's going to take dealing with anger positively, sadness. It's going to take everything you got to do it properly.
Or it's not going to work, and we'll just cut straight to the chase. There's a reason why second and third marriages fail at a greater rate than first marriages, because it is a lot of work. And I think a lot of people go into it underestimating the work and without having done the work they need to do in themselves, so they're carrying that extra baggage in. So we don't want that for you fellas. We want this next one to be your last one.
Absolutely. All right, man.
That's good. We covered a lot of ground last week.
We sure did.
So hit us up in the comments and like and subscribe. But we're here for you. And until next time, I'm Kelly.
And I'm John. Peace.